Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Mr. Money Invest. Today we want to talk about Pharmanaga. Pharmanaga is a company that controls 1/3 of Malaysian drugs distribution. And today, this company is going bust. How did this happen? And what can you as an investor learn from this? Now, Pharmanaga is one of the biggest integrated pharmaceutical company in Malaysia. About half of its revenue actually comes from distributing drugs in Malaysia. How did they become so big? Now, Malaysia has this very interesting system when it comes to pharmaceutical distribution. You see, drugs are not allowed to sell directly in the Malaysian market, but they have to go through exclusive distributorship appointed by the government to do so. But nonetheless, this is how Malaysia operates. With such advantage, over the years, Pharmanaga has expanded their businesses into the full value chain of the industry. Yes, half of their revenue comes from logistics and distribution, but because of their nature of being an integrated pharmaceutical company, over the years they have also added a few more services within the group. And today they have all the talents to contribute R&D research to come up with new drug, and when the new patent is there, then they can pass it down to their manufacturing arm where they manufacture all these drugs, and then that is being distributed through their distribution arm, and after that they are all being sold in the pharmacies. But all in, what made them really special was diabetes. For your information, right, diabetic market is a highly profitable market. A diabetic patient is totally dependent on this drug called insulin. They will need to take it at least once a day, if not more. And they have no choice, right? Because without insulin, it's very hard to carry on their daily lives. And this has become a cash cow business to pharmaceutical companies. And the market for diabetes is growing significantly in Malaysia. Now, let me show you some stats to prove it to you. Back in year 2000, Malaysia has less than 1 million diabetic patients. But today, just look at the statistic, we have close to 5 million diabetic patients today. And according to IDF, this number is going to increase significantly over the years. And for pharmaceutical company, this means the demand for insulin is going to shoot up the roof. Fun fact, do you know that currently 90% of the world's insulin market is controlled by just 3 pharmaceutical companies? According to WHO, these companies are Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi. So whoever that can penetrate into their business, it's going to make a lot of money. And remember, Pharmanaga has R&D arm. They are trying to develop a Malaysian version of insulin. Now here comes the question. If there are already 3 big giants in the market, so what can this small little Malaysian company do? What is so special about Pharmanaga's insulin? Halal. If they manage to bring halal insulin to the market, immediately they can whack the halal market. Diabetic patients from Indonesia, from the Middle East, and all the Muslims in the world will be so attracted to use their halal insulin. That was the excitement in the market, and their share price managed to shoot up by 300% from 2010 all the way to 2015 on this catalyst alone. But in 2020, COVID hit. We all know this story. It was bad for the world, but it was great news for pharmaceutical companies thanks to the vaccine business. Remember Pharmanaga that has exclusivity in terms of distributing drugs in Malaysia? That's good news, right? Ironically, this opportunity is what's killing the company today. From the onset, KJ announced that Pharmanaga will be one of the 2 companies to take charge of the fill and finish processes for the vaccines once vaccines is available. Now, what is fill and finish? Think of it this way. If you are familiar with the car industry, you know this thing called the CKD. CKD basically means importing car parts from around the world and then being assembled locally in Malaysia. Now, for fill and finish, the concept is the same. What KJ is trying to say is to import those vaccines in bulk and then rebottle it in Pharmanaga's facility. So that is called a fill and finish product. Since this was announced earlier on, it means Pharmanaga was given plenty amount of time to prepare themselves. However, we don't know what went wrong. When it was time to roll out the vaccines, they were not ready. As a result, the government had no choice, but they they have to import the CBU version of the vaccine, meaning to say they import the finished bottled vaccines from China to Malaysia. And guess what? Since Pharmanagia got exclusivity on distribution, right? So when the government wanted to import finished vaccines to Malaysia, they still have to go through Pharmanagia. And in this case, they have to buy those finished vaccines at a much higher price, 18% higher compared to the fill and finish version of the vaccine. Great business. So what's wrong? 561. That's their problem. It's 561 million of overstocked vaccines in their inventory today. If you look at the FY 2021 annual report on page 189, you see this. It says here that the carrying value of the group's inventory as at 31st of December 2021 amounted to 1.26 billion ringgit, of which 561 million pertains to COVID-19 vaccines. That's 44% of their total inventory. Imagine a company that has more than 700 products to sell. One COVID vaccine makes up almost half of their inventory. That's a huge red flag in my opinion. But the management seems to be quite confident. Again, on the same paragraph here, it says that based on management assessment, no impairment was required as the group expects to be able to sell the COVID-19 vaccines within the financial year ending 31st December 2022. But I guess there's a difference between confidence and reality. So this is what happened in the fourth quarter FY 2022. Now, since they were unable to sell the vaccines fast enough, they were required by their auditors to impair 552 million ringgit worth of vaccines in their balance sheet. This means that they are assuming that this much of vaccine that could potentially be unsold, and therefore they have to write it off and just take it as a loss for that quarter itself. Immediately, they fall under PN17 category. Their stock price dropped more than 40% within a few days. Next question, what is PN17? A PN17 company is a listed company that is either failed to have a core business or they fail to meet the minimum capital or equity and company's shareholders' funds. In short, they just ran out of money lah. By the way, I took a peek into their finances between FY20 and FY22 to see what's going on in there. And here's what I found. During FY20, they had a minimum amount of debt, which is just 337,000 ringgit. But by FY 2021, that number ballooned to 285 million ringgit. Could it be that the money was borrowed to purchase the vaccines? I have to say that if they are not able to settle these borrowings, this will be a trouble on top of the 552 million ringgit unsold vaccines. Double whammy. Anyways, 1 year later, in FY22, it seems like they managed to pare down their borrowings from 285 million ringgit to 190 million, meaning they were able to pay back close to 100 million ringgit of borrowings in just a year time. Could this money come from selling the vaccines to the government? Today, the COVID-19 virus has been under control and more people are already vaccinated. That will affect the demand for vaccines. If the sales of vaccines were going down, would Pharmanagia be able to continue paying these borrowings? I believe that's a crucial question for the management to answer. Anyways, moving forward, there are two things that Pharmanagia could do to save themselves. Firstly, if the company is able to sell off its inventory, then potentially Pharmanagia could write back 552 million ringgit that they provided in the first place. This would immediately turn into a profit for the company, and that would immediately help the share price to go up significantly. Apart from that, this will also help them to come out from the PN17 category. But the question here is, who would want to buy such a big bulk of vaccines when COVID is coming under control, right? Maybe the government to buy the vaccines off their balance sheet? Because don't forget, Pharmanagia controls 1/3 of Malaysia's drug distribution. If this company goes bankrupt, this could spell disaster to the Malaysian healthcare ecosystem. Secondly, they will need to raise money in order to increase the shareholders' fund above the listing requirements, failing which Pharmanagia could go delisted. And this will be the worst news for investors. Nonetheless, they still have a trump card in their pocket if given time to show. Remember the Halal insulin that we talked about earlier? According to reports, Pharmanagia said that their manufacturing facility will be ready by end of the year. This is a cash cow business, as we mentioned before, that has the potential to turn the company around, again, if given time. So, how do you think this story will continue? Why not you tell us in the comments below?